Hello everyone, Prime here. Hope you're having a great day, because today we're going to be covering some areas of Smite that could follow its lore or mythology a little better than it currently does in-game. Mostly it's going to be gods and parts of their kits that could possibly be altered a little bit to support the lore a little better or just be more friendly to the lore generally. And other times it's not necessarily just an improvement, just something they could have done differently with the character. So, first up we have Hell. So in Smite, she's a beauty in both stances. Not necessarily the most lore-accurate thing in the world, because when she was born, half of her face was cast in darkness, or not just her face, half of her body really was cast in darkness, and the other half was cast in light. Or at least more normal than normal would possibly be. Now, that kind of sticks with her up until, her role in her later age, where she's a much older woman, and by much older I mean significantly older. Still got the whole half beastly, ugly-looking face, and then a much older, withered face as well. Fairly tall being Hell, much taller than she seems to be in Smite, and they could have gone with the much safer route being to just have Hell be a significantly old woman. So they could have just given Hell Upwash's kit, because Hell would receive all of the dead souls that didn't go to Odin or his wife in Helheim. Her raising the dead, having a bunch of zombies, or just having zombie-like Norse soldiers at her command works.
So,
next up we have Sol, and I actually think that the kit that Hi-Rez came up with her in-game is actually very okay. Pretty good actually, considering her lore. You see, because her father named her Sol, and also this applied to her brother, because her brother was named, the gods didn't like this very much, and decided to punish the children by having them pull the sun and the moon across the sky. Sol, of course, having to pull the sun and her brother the moon. To help them with this, they were given noble steeds. I'm not sure what the brothers' steeds were called, but Sol's horses were called Early Riser and Swift, and they pulled her chariot across the sky. On her chariot, she would, of course, pull the sun, and behind her chariot were Skoll and Haiti, Fenrir's children. Also in Sol's chariot, there was a chap holding a shield in between the earth and Sol's chariot. This was so that the earth wasn't scorched or burnt to pieces by Sol, just doing her job. So why she was powerful enough or just had the ability to potentially burn the earth to cinders, but of course it makes it so that her kit makes a lot of sense and is fair enough in the way it is. Of course they could have gone a different route with it and have maybe her mount up on her chariot and have the horses spawn in to help her as friendly units to help her out drive the chariot, or perhaps she just summons those horses as separate AI units to help her attack enemies, or perhaps even she keeps the chariot and the horses pull the chariot along, and she summons Skoll and Haiti to help her fight enemies. Might be weird if she uses Skoll and Haiti to fight Fenrir, but hey, at least there's a chance for Skoll and Haiti to be put in the game as separate characters or gods now.
Medusa.
Next up we have Medusa, and I don't have a problem with her archery, even though it's not stated anywhere or mentioned explicitly in her lore. Doesn't sync up too well in that respect, but Medusa using a bow is actually fairly common in a lot of other games and movies. Take Dota for instance. That version of Medusa uses a bow, and also brings up the other point about Medusa, her having a snaky body, which is the problem I have. Medusa wasn't said to have been turned into a giant snake. She was still maintained her human body, it's just she had a really ugly face and her hair was turned into a bunch of snakes. And of course if she looked at anyone, then they'd be turned into stone. Which sucked for her and the person who was turned into stone, but what can you do?
Camazotz! Cuchulainn!
Alright, so rounding us off, we have Camazotz and we have Cuchulainn. Now these two I put together because they both had data mined abilities that were changed just before they were put into the game. For Camazotz, it was his ult, and his ult would have him soar into the sky, pick a target, land down on that target, attach themselves to that target in a very similar way to how Saket's ult works, except he'd stay there. He'd still be damaged by enemies, I'm assuming. And if he were to kill the enemy before he's killed off of his opponent, he would execute them. And of course he'd be sucking their blood whilst he's attached to them. of course. It's just made more sense because he's the deadly god of bats in Smite, and in his mythology he's a giant bat. I suppose, to be fair, his current ultimate, Bat Out of Hell, does sync up with the way that he executed Xbalanque's brother, but Bat Out of Hell syncs up with the type of bat that he has, so I suppose take some, lose some. I would have preferred the previous ultimate, but whatever. Next up we have Cuchulainn. He had a chance to have one of his abilities be pretty interesting. Essentially his signature weapon, the Galebolg, had the ability to split itself up many times once it had penetrated an opponent's body somehow, to cause massive internal damages that probably wouldn't be able to be healed. That could be an amazing stun, bleed effect. They could do a lot with that ability and make it a lot of things, but instead they opted to not do that for some reason. Not sure why, but it could have been amazing. It's now not amazing, which sucks. As a bonus god, I'm throwing in Bastet. Now, she was said to, at night, be able to transform into a cat to defend Ra from the Apep, or Apophis, and she spent a lot of time fighting the Apophis. In Smite, she's sort of a cat-human hybrid style thing, and she can summon cats, which is about the only lore-friendly thing I can think about her kit. The whip, I couldn't find anything that said that she actually used a whip in her lore, so correct me if I'm wrong about that, but as far as I could tell, she didn't use a whip in her lore. And they could have just had her transform into a cat, a bit like Artio. Or have her have a few more abilities where she just uses her more feline weapons like claws, or even bites something as a cat. I mean, they could have still had her too do exactly what it does now, just with a catty animation, and Declaw perhaps change to suit something else in her lore. You see, it's said that her cat eyes shining in the darkness helped to defeat the Apophis, so they could perhaps do something with that, where maybe she has a ranged ability similar to one of Camazotz skill shots, where she shoots something out to damage an opponent. Or maybe she shoots out an ability, and if it lands, similar to Camazotz, she has true sight of them. Or if she shoots out an ability, she has enhanced vision of them, so maybe past walls, maybe at a longer distance away, or something like that. Might not synergize too well with her kit, but I'm sure they could make it do that if they really wanted to. Of course, they can't do everything under the sun that's relevant to the lore because they have to consider game balance, and that's a shame. But we've reached the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and leave us a like. If you thought there was a few gods that I could have mentioned that I didn't, that have kits that don't quite follow the lore too well, go ahead and leave your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Before you do though, I will mention that I didn't put Odin in this video purposely because he's one that's usually mentioned quite a lot as not really following the lore all that well, as far as his kit's concerned. So yeah, I didn't put him in, I'll talk about him for that reason. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. I've been Prime, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.